Hello there, my friends. Come along with me on a philosophical journey. Came outside here to make my usual daily video, and there it is, right on cue. The sirens. Oh, that's funny. That is damn funny. Anyhow, you can also hear the ice cream man, so there's another side to it. But I prefer to make my videos outside. You know, I talk about a lot of different subjects, and I've attracted a lot of different types of people over the years to my channel, and it's interesting because if I were to talk about, let's just say, nothing but conspiracies, then I would attract people who are interested in conspiracies. If I were to talk about teddy bears, I would attract people who are interested in teddy bears. If I was a gamer and I played video games, then I'd have people interested in games. But there's no one particular subject that I really cover. And often when I make a video, a certain person will say, oh, I really like this video, I'm subbing your channel. And within a week or two, they're just like, oh man, this isn't anything, you know, like I'm not even interested in this kind of stuff, you know. I'm not into philosophy, I'm just into kratom. Or, I'm not into kratom, I'm just into philosophy. But anyhow, the point being that I cover a broad spectrum of ideas because I have a lot of different interests. And coming home, I was thinking about how I've made well over 3,000 videos in the last 4 years. Average of 2 to 3 a day. And I never lose interest in the subjects. But there's bound to be a cognitive dissonance taking place within that framework of making videos. And this particular cognitive dissonance that I'm speaking of, in this case, which is holding two contrasting opinions at one time, is something that many of us have. An example would be a person who believes that the Earth is, billions, 4.5 billion years old, like like we're told, but at the same time believes in, let's say they're a Christian, and that they're told the Earth is 6,000 years old. So they have this cognitive dissonance between these two ideas that they're holding in their head. And maybe that's not the best example, but it's the one that popped into my mind. And folks don't know exactly what to do, and so they tend to ignore it. We all, to one degree or another, have it, and about a variety of subjects. And in this particular subject I'm talking about, it's going to be, can the world improve and be a better place? Can we pull our heads out of our asses as a society? I shouldn't even say society, I should say as a race, the human race. Can we pull ourselves out of the situation we're in and take back individual power? You know, one of the hardest things to understand, and that people just don't seem to want to hear, is that we got ourselves into this mess. That it's easy to point the finger at the government and place blame, but humans as a whole got ourselves into this mess that we're in. And I've said this in the past and given people the impression that I don't blame the government for any of the problems or the corporations. And it's complete opposite. We are completely screwed and utterly treated like peons, like slaves. I mean, the human race as a species has an inherent desire to fit into a category. I should say humans in general tend to fit roles. We have leaders and we have followers. There's some people out there I've met who just want to lead and they will not follow anybody. And then there's other people who just have no desire to show or teach anybody anything, and they just want to have somebody show them the way. And this is why we have students and teachers. And I think within that realization that we have different types of people with different types of interests, and some want to control and some want to follow, then we realize that there's a structure, a hierarchy that's kind of inherent within mankind, and we've always known this. But it's very difficult for people to say that one person should be a leader and another person should be a follower or a worker. Some people are very happy to work for others. For me, I have a really hard time working for other people. Yet at the same time, I'm not exactly the leader type because I can't boss people around. I'm more of the brainstorming type, group thinking type, where we can all get together. Not group think as if just to go along with it, but brainstorming with people to say, what can we do with this future? And one day, I believe that mankind can have this great bright future, that we can stop fighting amongst ourselves, that we can stop arguing. And then the next week, I figure we're just totally doomed, that we're screwed, that there's no chance for us to pull ourselves out. It's like it's really easy to see what's going on around us and think, oh my God, we're doomed. We don't have a chance. And then you start thinking, well, is that defeatism? Am I being a defeatist by thinking that? A lot of people throw in the towel. A lot of people are frustrated, and so they place blame for the situations we're in, and often they're correct. We have made a lot of mistakes as humans, as a whole, as a society, but a few have taken advantage of that, taken advantage of loopholes, and not only loopholes, but other people's trust, and abused that power in order to make laws, rules, regulations, borders, facilities, you name it, that have brought us to this point where we are, where I live in a country that has more prisoners than any other country in the entire world, where the prison population is privately owned, where the schools are becoming privately owned, where anybody who has $1 billion can buy out a smaller company and run it into the ground, or run it into the ground. And we go to the store now and you buy some, local mom and pop organic food, and you find out that that company was bought out by Monsanto 20 years ago. You just don't know what to believe. And we're told that this particular food or medicine is great for you, then the next week it's bad for you. 10 years ago we're obsessed with antibiotics, and today we're obsessed with probiotics. For the follower types, they're getting frustrated because they say, damn it, we're being told all the wrong things. What should we do? And that's why we need better leaders. And I should say associates. Leader is not a bad word. There's nothing wrong with having folks who lead others as long as they are the philosopher king type. And the idea of philosopher kings, it's one of those conundrums. Because anybody who has the wisdom to lead doesn't want to lead. And that becomes a big problem. People who want power, people who want to be recognized, they're often the ones who have the sociopathic tendencies that end up being in office. And this isn't always true. But let me stop for a second and say this. For all the people out there who hate politicians, hate politics, hate the whole system, you have to stop and remember that there are some people in there who are trying to change things for the good. I could give you Bernie Sanders as an example. I trust Bernie Sanders. He's one of the only politicians I've ever heard speak that I actually trust. That I trust his intentions and his integrity 100%. I've never met the man. I've never spoken to him personally. I don't have any personal relation with him. All I know is what I've seen through the media, right? So that makes it prone to be flawed, such as, well, there might be another side of him, or that he's done this or done that, or maybe he's really trying to just make money. We know that's not true because of all the time he's spent working for the people. But he's a nice guy. And you know what? When I've argued with people back when Bernie had a chance, and I said, I support Bernie, because he cares for the people. And you know what the number one response that I got from people was? The reason why they didn't want Bernie in and they wanted Trump in instead? He said he's too nice, he's too passive, he's too easily pushed around, that he would be stepped on. And I say, this is the problem we have. It's the view that a politician has to be headstrong to the point where they're belligerent in order to be a good leader. How has this worked in the past? Never. It's just always been a failure. The peaceful leaders. We assume that the peaceful leaders are going to be too passive and maybe let us get abused. But do we really think that that's true? You know, guys like Bernie Sanders, they are philosophers, thinkers. He's a, yeah, and not to get into politics on this, but it's just my example of how we believe that the best leaders are the ones who are bullheaded. And I find that to be disconcerting. But I also realize that it is kind of a father complex that people have. They want somebody to be leading, they want somebody to be running the show that will slap them when they need to be slapped. And that may sound harsh, but there are people out there who really sit there and say, what do I do? I need somebody to tell me what to do. I need somebody to tell me how to live my life. I need the news to tell me what to eat. You know? And in the last 10 years, the available information on the internet has reached such an intensity that pretty much any information that you want to find can be sought out and found on the internet, but you have to know where to look. So a person might Google, you know, is chocolate good for you? And then click on the first result that they see, you know, which are always ads on the first page. And then it ends up, you know, taking you talking about how great chocolate is, and oh, click here for the best chocolate in the world. And everything is clickbait. Everything is trying to suck you in, and it frustrates people because they feel like there's no real information out there anymore. And there is. You just have to dig it up. If you look up scientific journal articles for some of the things that you really want to know, they are there. Another example is with this kratom ban going on. You know, a lot of people are out there screaming, Big Pharma, it's got to be Big Pharma. They're going to just patent these other drugs. And you know what? Big Pharma is a part of it. But you have to look up and find the details about the actual compounds that they're making. You have to have the details and the evidence. There's a compound called MGM-16, which was recently synthesized, and I believe in 2014 they decided that it would be a great medicine. It's a synthetic version of the active ingredient in kratom, and now they're banning it. So there is evidence there to prove that Big Pharma already knows that it's medicinally beneficial, and that they're already making and have made medicines from it, and now it's being banned. So at that point you can start to say, okay, there's a connection there. There's something else going on. And it's the same thing that happened with cannabis. You have thousands and thousands of doctors and judges saying it has medical value, but it's still illegal, and people are frustrated, so they hate the DEA, they hate the FDA for going along with it, then they start to distrust all government, and then get to the point where they just want the whole system to fall apart. So, it's kind of like I said before, there's some days when I believe that maybe humans can slowly bring down the walls and stop fighting amongst each other. And then there's other days when I see the Orwellian future, you know, where people are controlled, the thought police, you know, and it's kind of what's happening right now. There's a lot of editing, there's a lot of fraud going on, there's a lot of censorship going on, and people don't know what to do. I would like to I was going to make a separate video about this subject, but I figured it would just, it wouldn't go anywhere, so I'll just mention it now. There have been a lot of people talking about YouTube censoring channels. I've seen several videos where it says, YouTube wants to shut down my channel. And then I start digging and digging to find what's the truth on this. What's really going on? Is YouTube really shutting down channels for content? And then I listen to the actual video, and they go on to say that YouTube is demonetizing their profits from the commercials that they put on their videos because of the controversial material they're talking about. Let me tell you something. I totally understand free speech, but I also understand that if you're making money from an ad account, then these are companies that are advertising on your channel, and you are not being censored. They're just choosing not to pay you for what you're talking about. And I think that that's a really important thing, because a lot of these alternative media and truther channels, they get a lot of viewers and they have commercials, and those commercials make them money. And a person will say, well, we have to have money to, to function, to run. Well, here I am making 2 videos a day. I'm not making any money off this channel in 4 years that I've done it. I talk about things for the sake of helping people and trying to learn about each other and learn about the world we live in. But I don't intend to make a profit from corporations off of it. So why should the truther channels be worried about making money off of it? You can't get pissed off at big business for censoring their ads on your video talking shit about big business. That right there is the perfect example of cognitive dissonance. You have, a person who just is sitting there spouting about what's wrong with the world and how the corporations rule the world, and meanwhile they're collecting ad revenue from the very corporations that, somebody made a video the other day about it. It was Psyched Substance, and he mentioned in the video that he made a video about nexus flipping, that's taking 2CB with MDMA as a combination, and then one of the commercials on there was for like a Nexus phone or something like that, because they used the wordplay. But if you have a video entitled the government is corrupt and fuck all these people, nobody's going to want to advertise on that because they don't want their product associated with it. So I just wanted to point that out for people who are saying, oh, I'm being censored. I haven't seen any channels actually shut down for content yet. With what's going on with this internet thing, a lot of people are saying it's being turned over to the UN on October 1st. There is some shit going down with that. It's not the UN directly, it's actually a league of nations, a group of nations, but we are basically giving up control of... you'd have to look it up yourself to get the details, but it looks like the future of the internet is going to be much more censored, much more bleak. We're going to look back on the early 2000s as being the Wild West of the internet days. The days where you could go log in anonymously, order some illegal things that you wanted, or to, post comments anonymously, whatever it may be. That's gone now. It's over. Everything you do is tracked and traced online, and we know this. A couple of years ago, I got a little paranoid about it because I talk about a lot of stuff. But I realized I am not going to hide how I feel in life because I'm afraid of being noticed. I'm not going to hide how I feel about my government and corruption because I'm afraid of them knowing who I am. I'm not going to hide my face or be anonymous. This is why people need to be seen and known in order to understand what their real intentions are. This is why I don't watch the anonymous videos and their claims about how they're going to do this or that. And I'm not interested in anonymous claims or statements. I'm interested in people making a difference. And it's a lot of people have sacrificed their freedoms and their lives to take a stand. There have been people who wouldn't give up their values and they refused to fold and have gone to prison for it. I know I myself got in trouble in '98 and they tried to get me to rat people out and I refused, and they said, oh, you can get a lesser sentence, and I said, I don't care. I'm not going to give up my fellow man to screw myself or to save myself. This is what's wrong with society, is selling out. It's totally wrong. And so anyway, I think we can all do a little better. We can all stand up for what we believe, and we can all speak up without being afraid of repercussions. If we don't want to, that's fine. Just remember the people who have. Socrates, a lot of people say that he was executed. The truth is that he chose that option. He was forced to pay a small fine for corrupting the youth in Athens, and he refused to pay that fine because he believed he was in the right. The alternative was to drink the hemlock, and he did, and he died. This is a man who wouldn't sacrifice principle to save his own ass. And that right there is the ultimate cognitive dissonance that we have, is that we want to preserve ourselves, we want to preserve our lives, and we want to live as quietly and comfortably as possible, but we also want to speak up and be heard. We want people to know what's going on, and how we feel. So don't be afraid to speak up. Get out there. A lot of people are complaining, but they're afraid to actually say anything about it, It's like they're silently complaining to each other. For example, somebody posts a video about something and the whole thread is full of people who all agree, but the information's not getting to the right people, and it's not conveyed the correct way. So, we each have to decide what's important for ourselves. That's all I got. Namaste. Talk to you.